The first time Ambassador Kthar'zen saw a human touch something, he thought it was malfunctioning. Not the human, mind you, the entire concept of reality itself. You have to understand, Kthar'zen had spent the last 3 cycles preparing for this moment. 3 full cycles of briefings, security protocols, and what the Galactic Council optimistically called cultural sensitivity training, which mostly consisted of watching grainy surveillance footage of humans doing inexplicable things and then arguing about whether they were dangerous, insane, or both. The consensus, as always, remained frustratingly unclear. The humans had been silent for 200 years after their initial contact transmission, a transmission so garbled and primitive that half the council thought it was a natural phenomenon, like a pulsar with delusions of grandeur. Then, suddenly, they'd sent coordinates for a meeting. Just coordinates. No explanation, no demands, no threatening gestures that the Ktharixian people would have absolutely included because, honestly, what's diplomacy without a little implied violence? So there stood Kthar'zen, all 7 feet of him, his ceremonial armor reflecting the harsh lights of the human station they called Gateway Sigma, trying very hard not to look nervous in front of his security detail. The armor itself was a work of art. 12 layers of compressed titanium carbon weave, energy-reactive plating that could disperse a plasma bolt across its entire surface, and enough sensor arrays to detect a hostile thought from 3 rooms away. The Ktharixians didn't mess around when it came to first contact. They'd learned that lesson the hard way with the Vreshka, and nobody wanted a repeat of that particular genocide. "Sir," hissed Lieutenant Vrex beside him, her mandibles clicking anxiously, "the readings are inconsistent how?" Kthar'zen kept his voice low, professional. "The gravity fluctuates, 0.03% variance every 17 seconds. The atmospheric composition shifts. Nothing dangerous. Just," she paused, her translator struggling. "Wrong. That was the thing about humans. Everything about them was wrong. Their planet orbited a yellow dwarf star in the galactic boonies, spinning through space with an axial tilt that should have rendered it uninhabitable. Their atmosphere was 21% oxygen. Oxygen, that universal fire accelerant, and they'd evolved to breathe it. Their biology was a disaster of inefficiency. Single heart, limited regeneration, no natural armor, sensory organs that could barely detect a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. By every reasonable measure, they should have been extinct before they crawled out of whatever primordial soup had the bad judgment to spawn them. And yet, the door ahead eye-rised open with a soft pneumatic hiss, and Kthar'zen's first thought was that the humans had sent a child. She couldn't have been more than 5 feet tall, positively microscopic by Ktharixian standards. No armor, no visible weapons, no security detail. Just a simple uniform the color of Earth's sky, and a smile that somehow managed to be both welcoming and absolutely terrifying in its complete lack of concern. Her skin was dark, her hair pulled back in intricate patterns that probably meant something significant in human culture, and her eyes, oh, those eyes. Kthar'zen had seen recordings of human eyes before, but recordings didn't capture the sheer intensity of them. Like looking into the event horizon of a very small, very polite black hole. "Ambassador Kthar'zen," she said, her voice carrying that strange melodic quality all human languages seemed to possess. "I'm Dr. Amara Okonkwo, Xenobiology Liaison. Welcome to Gateway Sigma. I hope the journey wasn't too uncomfortable." His translator rendered her words perfectly, even caught the subtle warmth in her tone. Kthar'zen had practiced his response for weeks. "Dr. Okonkwo, the honor is mine. The Ktharixian hegemony extends greetings and hopes for—" He stopped. She was walking toward him. Not in a threatening way, not with any apparent hostile intent, just walking. Like it was the most natural thing in the world to approach a 7-foot alien warrior in full combat armor. Lieutenant Vrex's hand went to her plasma carbine. "Stand down," Kthar'zen ordered quietly, even as every instinct screamed at him to activate his armor's defense protocols. Dr. Okonkwo stopped about 3 feet away, still smiling. "Sorry, I should have asked first. May I?" She gestured toward his armor with one small, bare hand. "I what?" "Your armor. It's beautiful. Ktharixian quantum forge construction, if I'm not mistaken. The energy dispersal pattern is fascinating. I'd love to see it up close." Kthar'zen's translator must have glitched because surely she hadn't just asked to examine military-grade battle armor like it was a museum piece. Later, he would replay this moment in his mind thousands of times, trying to identify the exact second everything changed, trying to pinpoint when the universe decided to stop making sense. Dr. Okonkwo reached out, her movements slow and deliberate, and placed her hand, her tiny, fragile, unprotected hand, against his chest plate. The armor shrieked. Not metaphorically, not in Kthar'zen's imagination. The armor physically shrieked, its alerts blazing across his heads-up display in colors he didn't know existed. Structural integrity warnings, energy fluctuation alerts, system failures cascading through every layer of protection that had taken Ktharixian engineers 2 centuries to perfect. And then it cracked. Just like that. A hairline fracture spreading from where her palm rested, spiderwebbing across 12 layers of military-grade composite that could withstand a direct hit from an orbital bombardment platform. The sound was almost gentle, a soft crystalline tinkling, like wind chimes made of breaking promises. Dr. Okonkwo jerked her hand back, her eyes wide. "Oh no. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought the briefing said your armor was rated for extreme contact events." Kthar'zen couldn't speak. His security detail had their weapons raised now. But what were they supposed to shoot? The small human woman who'd just done the impossible with nothing but her bare hand? Who looked genuinely apologetic, like she'd accidentally bumped into him at a market instead of shattering technology that represented the pinnacle of Ktharixian military engineering. How? Kthar'zen finally managed. His voice barely a whisper. "How did you do that?" She looked confused. "Do what?" "My armor, you broke it. I touched it." "Yes, and it broke." "Well, yes, but..." Dr. Okonkwo glanced at her hand, then back at the armor, then at her hand again. Oh dear. You weren't briefed, were you?" "Briefed about what?" Lieutenant Vrex demanded, her carbine still trained on the human. "About us. About Earth standard biology." Dr. Okonkwo sighed, running that same terrifying hand through her hair. "Okay, this is awkward. Do you know what a G-force is?" "Gravitational acceleration." Kthar'zen replied automatically, his training kicking in despite his shock. "Standard measurement of..." "Right. Earth's surface gravity is approximately 9.8 meters per second squared. That's..." She paused, calculating. "About 3.2 times what you evolved under. Everything on Earth evolved under that pressure. Our bones, our muscles, our cellular structure. It's all built to function under constant crushing force that would pancake most species in the Galactic Council." The implications hit Kthar'zen like a cargo hauler. "You're saying that humans are inherently strong compared to most species?" "Catastrophically so." She winced. "We didn't think it would matter with armor. Usually, your shielding and energy dispersal handle contact forces, right? But human skin..." She held up her hand, examining it like it was some foreign object. "Our skin is weird. It's not just protective covering. It's a sensory organ, a thermal regulator, a chemical factory. When we touch something, we're not just making contact, we're conducting electricity, transferring heat, releasing oils and acids, and about 100 other compounds. Your armor probably didn't know whether I was attacking it or trying to corrode it or what. So you're all walking weapons," Vrex stated flatly. "What?" "No." Dr. Okonkwo looked genuinely horrified. "We're not weapons, we're just durable. It's not our fault the galaxy is apparently made of tissue paper." Kthar'zen stared at the crack in his armor, watching the energy patterns flicker and die around it. "This armor has protected me through 3 combat deployments. It's rated for plasma fire, kinetic strikes, corrosive atmospheres, and you shattered it with 1 touch. I said I was sorry." "You said you were sorry," he repeated numbly. A new voice echoed through the docking bay, this one male, with an accent his translator labeled as North American English, possibly Canadian. "Dr. Okonkwo, please tell me you didn't break another ambassador's armor." The man who emerged from a side corridor was tall for a human, nearly 6 feet, with pale skin covered in what Kthar'zen's database identified as freckles and hair, the color of rust. He wore a similar uniform to Dr. Okonkwo, but his had more insignia, which presumably meant something in the human hierarchy. "In my defense, Commander Hayes, nobody told me Ktharixian armor was contact sensitive." Commander Hayes pinched the bridge of his nose in a gesture that transcended species. We sent 3 briefing documents specifically about that. I don't read briefing documents. I'm a xenobiologist, not a diplomat. You're the xenobiology liaison. Exactly. I liaise with xenobiology, not with boring documents about who's supposed to shake what and in which order. Kthar'zen found himself laughing. He couldn't help it. The sheer absurdity of it all. The broken armor, the apologetic scientist, the exasperated commander, the fact that humanity's great reveal to the galaxy was apparently that they were too strong and too casual about touching things. It bubbled up from somewhere deep in his thorax, a clicking, whistling sound that made Dr. Okonkwo smile and Commander Hayes relax slightly. I apologize, Hayes said, extending his hand before apparently thinking better of it, and lowering it again. We're still calibrating our interaction protocols. Earth biology is unusual, and we're trying very hard not to accidentally intimidate or injure anyone. Not to injure, Kthar'zen repeated, still chuckling. Your scientist just destroyed my armor with a gentle touch, and you're worried about not injuring us. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad. It is bad, Vrex interjected. Do you have any idea what this means for security protocols? If all humans can simply crush our defenses with bare skin contact, then, Lieutenant, Kthar'zen interrupted gently. Lower your weapon. I don't think Dr. Okonkwo poses an immediate threat. With respect, sir. She literally just, I know what she did. I was there. I'm still wearing the evidence. He looked at the humans, these impossible creatures with their crushing gravity and their casual apocalypses. But I don't think it was intentional. Was it, Dr. Okonkwo? Absolutely not. I love meeting new species. I would never deliberately harm someone during first contact. Well, unless they were actively trying to harm me first. But that's just self-defense, which is totally different. And, Amara, Hayes said quietly. Right. Rambling. Sorry. She focused on Kthar'zen with those intense eyes again. I genuinely apologize for damaging your armor. Can it be repaired? Kthar'zen ran a diagnostic. The results made him want to laugh again, or possibly cry. He wasn't sure which. No. The quantum forge matrix is irreparably compromised. I'll need to requisition a new suit from the hegemony, which will take approximately 6 months given our distance from Ktharixian Prime. Or, Hayes offered carefully, we could fabricate you a replacement, human-compatible design, rated for the kind of contact events that apparently happen around us. You can do that? The commander's smile was small but genuine. Dr. Okonkwo isn't wrong about Earth's gravity. When you grow up learning to function under 3 times standard G, you get really good at building things that don't break. Our fabrication labs can probably have something ready in, what do you think, Amara? 48 hours? 36 if we skip the decorative elements. Kthar'zen's translator helpfully informed him that his next statement would be highly irregular from a diplomatic standpoint. He said it anyway. Why are you being so kind? I'm from a species you've never met. For all you know, we're here to scout your defenses before an invasion. Dr. Okonkwo laughed, bright and utterly unguarded. Are you? What? No. Then, why would we treat you like you are? She shrugged, a peculiarly human gesture that involved raising and lowering both shoulders. Look, Ambassador, humans spent most of our history being terrible to each other over the stupidest reasons. Skin color, birthplace, which invisible sky entity we preferred. We've done it all, and it nearly destroyed us twice. We finally figured out that maybe, just maybe, we should try being decent to people first, and see what happens. Seems to work better. That's remarkably optimistic for a species powerful enough to shatter military armor with a handshake. Who said anything about optimism? Hayes cut in. We're not optimistic. We're pragmatic. Being nice costs us nothing, and occasionally results in interesting friendships. Being hostile costs everything, and usually ends in someone getting hurt. The math is pretty simple. Kthar'zen felt something shift in his understanding. Not of humans exactly, but of his entire approach to this meeting, to first contact, to the carefully scripted diplomatic dance the hegemony had prepared him for. Commander Hayes, Dr. Okonkwo, Kthar'zen said slowly, feeling his way through an idea that would have horrified his superiors back on Ktharixian Prime. What would you say to giving me a tour of your station? The real tour, not the sanitized diplomatic version. Hayes and Okonkwo exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them that Kthar'zen's translator couldn't decode. Finally, Hayes nodded. Lieutenant Vrex and your security detail are welcome to accompany us, of course. Though I should warn you, Gateway Sigma isn't exactly a military installation. It's more of a collaborative chaos. Collaborative chaos, Kthar'zen repeated. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be, Dr. Okonkwo said cheerfully, already walking toward the corridor. It's supposed to be honest. What followed was the strangest 3 hours of Kthar'zen's diplomatic career, and he'd once had to negotiate a trade agreement while a Vreshka diplomat actively tried to poison him. The first shock came in what Hayes called the agricultural wing, which turned out to be less of a wing and more of a barely controlled biological explosion. Rows upon rows of plants, earth plants grown under Earth standard conditions, which meant gravity that would crush most species and oxygen levels that constituted a fire hazard by galactic safety standards. A human technician named Kenji was tending them, moving between the rows with easy grace despite wearing what appeared to be minimal protective gear. This is insane, Vrex muttered, her scanner going haywire, trying to catalog the variety of species. You're growing combustible vegetation in an oxygen-rich environment aboard a space station. One electrical spark and this entire section would burn like a supernova. Yeah, Kenji agreed, not looking up from the tomato plant he was examining. That's why we have 17 redundant fire suppression systems, 3 AI monitors running constant atmospheric analysis, and why I personally check every electrical connection twice per shift. Also, we really like fresh food, so. He shrugged, that universal human gesture of what are you going to do? You risked catastrophic station failure for fresh vegetables, Kthar'zen said. No, we implemented extensive safety protocols so we could have fresh vegetables, Kenji corrected. There's a difference. Want to try a cherry tomato? Fair warning, they're acidic by most species standards, might sting a bit. Kthar'zen accepted the small red fruit with trepidation, ran it through his suit's analysis, which was still functioning despite the crack across his chest plate, and cautiously took a bite. The flavor exploded across his palate, sweet, sharp, complex in ways that synthesized nutrients could never replicate. This is remarkable, right? Fresh food, real sunlight spectrum lamps, actual soil with microbial colonies. It's inefficient as hell compared to standard nutrition paste, but it makes people happy, and happy people work better, think clearer, don't go space crazy after 6 months in the black. Kenji plucked another tomato and popped it in his mouth hole. Efficiency isn't everything. The second shock came in the engineering section, where a woman named Yuki was apparently rebuilding a fusion reactor core while it was still running, something Kthar'zen's engineering training insisted was thermodynamically impossible and also suicidal. It's not running at full capacity, Yuki explained, her hands, her bare hands, working inside an access panel that should have been radiating enough heat to cook flesh. We've got it throttled down to 30% while I swap out the magnetic containment coils. The new design should give us another 15% efficiency without increasing the footprint. But the radiation, Vrex protested weakly. Oh, I'm wearing protection. Yuki gestured to a small badge clipped to her collar. Dosimeter. It'll start screaming if I hit unsafe exposure levels. Plus, human cells are pretty good at radiation repair. We evolved under a star that throws cosmic rays at us constantly. Plus our planet's magnetic field is kind of a disaster, so we got pretty robust DNA error correction mechanisms. Not invincible, mind you, but definitely more resilient than most. Most species would require full environmental suits and remote manipulation equipment for this work, Kthar'zen observed. Yeah, we've got those too. But sometimes you just need hands on the problem, you know? Direct tactile feedback, the ability to feel when something's misaligned by microns. Sensors are great, but they're not fingers. She paused, glanced at her hands, then at Kthar'zen's cracked armor. Sorry, is talking about how we use our hands to touch things insensitive given, you know? He found himself laughing again, that clicking whistle that seemed to delight the humans. Dr. Okonkwo, is everyone on this station as casually terrifying as the people we've met so far? Pretty much, Amara admitted. Though you haven't met the children yet. The what? Children. Young humans. We've got about 40 kids on station. Families of the permanent crew, mostly. They're in the education wing right now, Probably learning orbital mechanics, or possibly just throwing things at each other. Hard to say with 7-year-olds. Kthar'zen stopped walking. You brought children to a space station on the edge of explored space. Well, yeah. We're establishing a permanent human presence out here. People want their families with them. Would you prefer we leave the kids back on Earth, away from their parents for years at a time? That seems cruel. It seems safe. Safety isn't everything, Hayes said quietly. Humans are social creatures, Ambassador. We need connection, family, community. Take that away and we get unstable. The early space programs learned that the hard way, better to have the controlled risk of families aboard than the uncontrolled risk of isolated personnel making bad decisions. The third shock, and somehow the biggest, came in the education wing, where Kthar'zen met a child named Malik, who couldn't have been more than 10 years old and who asked, with complete seriousness, whether Ktharixian exoskeletons were grown or molted. Grown, Kthar'zen answered, still processing the fact that he was having a conversation with a juvenile human in a station corridor while the child's teacher supervised from nearby. We molt several times during adolescence, but the adult exoskeleton is permanent. Cool. Do you get stuck sometimes? My hermit crab got stuck molting once and died. It was really sad. I'm sorry about your hermit crab. Thanks. I got a new one. Named him Gerald. He's doing better. Malik paused, head tilted. Your armor's broken. I noticed. Dr. Okonkwo broke it, didn't she? She broke Captain Morrison's tablet last week by holding it too tight, and she cracked the viewing port in Lab 7 by pressing her face against it to see something outside. She's really nice but also kind of a disaster. I can hear you, Malik, Amara called from down the corridor. I know. That's why I said you're really nice first. Kthar'zen watched the child scamper off to join his classmates, moving with unconscious strength that would have been impressive in a trained Ktharixian warrior. They're so small, they'll grow, Hayes said. Malik will probably hit 6 feet by the time he's 16. Human growth patterns are dramatic. But yes, even as children, they're strong by galactic standards. It's one of the things we're trying to help the Council understand. Our baseline capabilities aren't military posturing or genetic enhancement. This is just what evolution under Earth conditions produces. And you want to join the Galactic Council? Beings who could accidentally injure most member species through casual contact. We want to not be isolated, Amara corrected. We want to trade, learn, share ideas and cultures. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And yes, we're aware that our physical capabilities create complications. That's why we're here, in this meeting, trying to figure out protocols that work for everyone. They'd return to the main docking bay now, coming full circle. A fabrication team had already begun constructing Kthar'zen's replacement armor, working from scans his suit had transmitted before catastrophically failing. He could see the assembly taking shape. Human engineering, adapted for Ktharixian physiology, built to withstand the kind of contact events that apparently defined human interaction. I need to send a report to the hegemony, Kthar'zen said finally. They'll want to know about this meeting, about humanity's capabilities. Of course, Hayes agreed. What will you tell them? Good question. What would he tell them? That humanity was dangerous? That wasn't quite right. Dangerous implied intent, malice, deliberate threat. The humans weren't dangerous. They were just powerful. Naturally, inevitably, almost apologetically powerful. I'll tell them the truth, he decided. That I met a species whose homeworld tried very hard to kill them for millions of years, and failed. That they evolved under conditions that would be considered extreme military training for most races. That they brought children to a space station because they value family over absolute safety. That one of their scientists accidentally shattered my armor and then spent the next 3 hours apologizing and offering me tomatoes. Dr. Okonkwo beamed. You make us sound almost reasonable. I make you sound terrifying in a very polite way, which is accurate. He paused, considering his next words carefully. The Council won't react well to this information, we figured, Hayes admitted. Species rarely react well to strength they can't match. We're hoping that maybe if we're transparent enough, friendly enough, useful enough as partners, maybe it won't matter. And if it does matter, if the Council decides humanity is too dangerous to integrate, the commander's expression hardened, just slightly. Then we'll be disappointed. But we won't be surprised, and we won't stop being who we are to make other species more comfortable. We've tried changing ourselves to fit others' expectations before, spent centuries doing it, actually. Humans trying to fit other humans' ideals. It never ended well. Lieutenant Vrex, who'd been silent for most of the tour, finally spoke up. You're not afraid of rejection? Of isolation? Of potential hostility from species who see you as a threat? Oh, we're terrified, Amara said bluntly. Absolutely petrified. But fear isn't a good reason to not try. Fear is just information. Data about potential risks. You acknowledge it, plan for it, and then you do the thing anyway, because the alternative is worse. Kthar'zen looked at his security detail, saw his own uncertainty reflected in their postures. Then he looked at the humans, at Dr. Okonkwo, with her enthusiastic chaos, at Commander Hayes with his careful diplomacy, at the entire impossible station full of impossible people growing impossible plants and raising impossible children in the cold darkness of space. The hegemony will want to send more ambassadors, he said. Specialists in human biology, culture, technology. They'll want to understand you better before making any recommendations to the council. We'd welcome that, Hayes replied. The more understanding, the better. Though maybe brief them extra carefully about the armor thing. And the gravity thing, Amara added. And the oxygen thing. And the radiation tolerance thing. And possibly the casual attitude towards safety protocols thing. Okay, maybe just brief them about everything. Kthar'zen's translator caught what it labeled as self-deprecating humor, but there was truth underneath it. Humans were a cascade of things that seemed dangerous until you understood the context, and even then maintained a certain edge of risk. But they were also warm, welcoming, genuinely interested in connection despite or perhaps because of their isolation. One more question, he said. Why did you wait 200 years after first contact to reach out again? Hayes and Okonkwo exchanged another one of those meaningful looks. Finally, Hayes sighed. Because we were afraid. That first transmission went out when we were still fragmented. Hundreds of nations, constant conflicts, barely maintaining coherent governance. We knew that if we joined the galactic community while we were still fighting among ourselves, we'd either be dismissed as primitives or exploited by more unified civilizations. So we took some time, worked on our issues, built a unified Earth government, established genuine cooperation, made sure we were putting our best foot forward. 200 years is a long time to work on issues, Vrex observed. You've seen our station, Amara said dryly. We're still working on them. We're just working on them together now, which seems like progress. The fabrication team signaled completion. Kthar'zen's new armor stood ready, sleek, efficient, incorporating Ktharixian design principles with human engineering solutions. It looked like a collaboration, which he supposed it was. Try it on, Hayes encouraged. Make sure it fits properly. Kthar'zen approached the armor slowly, running his hands over the surface. The material felt different, denser, somehow more forgiving. When he donned it, the systems activated smoothly, integrating with his neural interface without hesitation. The heads-up display flickered to life, showing diagnostics that were simultaneously familiar and foreign. How does it feel? Amara asked. Strong, he admitted. Different, but strong. The energy dispersal matrix is fascinating. It's not trying to deflect contact forces, it's absorbing and redistributing them, like it expects to be touched. That's exactly what it does. Human-grade armor has to account for friendly contact, maintenance work, accidental collisions, all the things that happen when you're a tactile species living in close quarters. We can't avoid touching things. It's literally how we interact with our environment. So our protective gear needs to handle that without catastrophically failing. Kthar'zen activated the armor's full suite of sensors, marveling at the clarity of the readings. This is extraordinary work. Your engineers accomplished in 36 hours what would take Ktharixian specialists months to design. We're good at building things that don't break, Hayes said simply. Had to be. Our planet kept trying to break us, so we learned to build better. Your planet tried to break you, and you survived. More than survived, you thrived. Kthar'zen turned to face the humans fully, his new armor humming with quiet power. I think the galaxy is going to have a very hard time understanding you. Probably, Amara agreed. But that's okay. We're patient. Well, not me personally. I'm terrible at patience, but humanity as a whole can wait. We've been waiting 200 years already. We can wait a bit longer for the rest of the universe to catch up. And if they never catch up, if they decide you're too different, too powerful, too risky, Dr. Okonkwo's smile was gentle, but her eyes held that black hole intensity again. Then we'll be sad. We'll be disappointed. But we'll still be here, growing our tomatoes and teaching our children, and building things that don't break when you touch them. Because that's what humans do, Ambassador. We endure, we adapt, we hope for the best and prepare for the worst, and somehow muddle through regardless. That's not very reassuring. No, Hayes agreed, but it's honest. And honestly, after millions of years of evolution trying to kill us, and 200 years of wondering if we'd ever find our place among the stars, honestly is the best we can offer. Kthar'zen looked at his security detail one last time, saw Lieutenant Vrex give him a small nod of understanding. Then he turned back to the humans, these impossible, terrifying, gentle creatures who broke armor with casual touches and offered tomatoes as apologies. Then, I suppose honestly will have to be enough, he said. When should we schedule the next diplomatic session? How about tomorrow? Amara suggested brightly. I promise not to break anything this time. Probably. I mean, I'll try really hard not to break anything. No guarantees, though. I'm kind of a disaster, so I've heard. Kthar'zen felt that clicking whistle building in his thorax again, that strange human-induced laughter. Tomorrow, then. And Dr. Okonkwo. Yes? Maybe bring more tomatoes. They're growing on me. The tomatoes or the humans. I'm not entirely sure there's a difference. As his shuttle prepared for departure back to his ship, Kthar'zen composed his report to the hegemony. He chose his words carefully, knowing they would be analyzed, debated, possibly quoted in council chambers for years to come. But in the end, he settled on something simple and true. The humans are not what we expected. They are stronger, stranger, more dangerous, and more kind than any species I have encountered. They shatter armor with gentle touches and grow vegetables in fire hazards and raise their children among the stars. They are terrifying and wonderful in equal measure, and I believe, despite all reasonable caution, that they may be exactly what the galaxy needs, whether the galaxy knows it yet or not. He paused, then added a final line. Also, request immediate update to all diplomatic armor specifications. Current models are wholly inadequate for human interaction. Send tomatoes. Will explain. The shuttle detached from Gateway Sigma with a gentle thrum of engines. Through the viewport, Kthar'zen could see the station spinning slowly against the stars. A human habitat, full of human strength and human fragility and human hope, waiting patiently for the universe to figure out what to do with them. He had a feeling the universe was in for quite a surprise. And honestly, he couldn't wait to watch what happened next.